As we get older, it seems like it becomes harder to make friends. I mean, even online, people seem to be getting more and more isolated. When I was younger, I could hop into a Call of Duty lobby on my Xbox 360, and within one or two matches, I could queue up with someone in a lobby and have a new friend by the end of the night. Even today, I still talk to some of my friends that I met through online games over 10 years ago. It's wild, but that seemed to have changed within the last 4 to 5 years. It seems like it's becoming harder to make new friends, both online and in the real world. And while we could blame this or blame that, it's just the way the world is going, and being upset about it isn't going to change the reality that making friends is hard these days. But I think I found the secret. About 6 months ago, I moved to a new city after graduating college at the end of 2022. I didn't want to stay in the city that I went to school in because I wanted something new and fresh. So, leaving nearly all of my friends behind, I did exactly that and was excited for my new start. But, well, I actually didn't meet anyone for the first 3 months. And by anyone, I mean I literally met zero new people. Yeah, it was rough. So, one weekend, I went to visit my friend Doug in Washington, D.C. And to my surprise, he had an entire friend group of 10 plus people, and he'd only been living there a little bit longer than I'd been living in my new city. He moved from Florida to Washington, D.C., and I just moved to a new city in Florida. And yet he seemed to be much more successful in making new friends than I was. And why is that? Well, see, he got out of his comfort zone. And no, I don't mean, I gotta approach random people in the street and beg them to be friends with you. That's not how the modern world works anymore. After a few months of not knowing anyone, Doug decided to message a guy he found on TikTok asking if he wanted to meet up. The TikTok guy had a page where he posted day in the life videos around the city and showed off the coolest places in DC. So Doug asked the guy if he could show him around. And believe it or not, the TikTok guy said yes. And now, months later, the duo are inseparable. They're basically best friends, and the TikTok guy introduced Doug to his entire friend group. Now, Doug has more dating options than ever before, a great, well-balanced friend group, and just really cool friends. But this has nothing to do with messaging some random person. It has more to do with who you become friends with. See, the TikTok guy was a connector, a person who knew a bunch of other people. And because Doug got connected with him and passed the vibe check, he now has access to TikTok guy's entire friend group. And that's what it takes. You don't need to network and talk to every single person in public to try to build a friend group. You just need to find the one person that will help to make the rest of the process easier for you. It's easier to build one solid connection than to try to manage a bunch of half thrown together ones at one time. So if you do this, you can actually make more friends. So, now that you get the backstory, let me tell you how I believe that you can actually make this happen. First of all, you gotta get out in public. While Doug's situation was unique because he simply messaged a guy on TikTok, the odds of that working out for people like you and I are pretty slim. Sure, if you see someone online that's doing cool stuff and you think you share something in common, reach out and shoot your shot. But trying to force something like that probably won't work. Which means you need to find a way to have interactions in the real world. The biggest hack for me is going to coffee shops. If you like coffee, work remote, or are in school and need to study, just do it in a coffee shop. These places are often full of other people who are trying to get out of the house, and almost everyone I've ever spoken to in a coffee shop seems to be willing to have a conversation. If they were really that against talking to you, or having social interactions in general, they probably would have just stayed at home. And a lot of coffee shops have those big communal tables where you can sit down and work or whatever, and you should definitely sit at those. While yes, a nice cozy table away from everyone in the corner looks like a solid spot, you aren't going to be able to talk to anyone from there. Almost every single interaction I've ever had in a coffee shop happened at one of those big tables where multiple people can sit in the same spot. So sit there and your odds are much higher that you'll see someone you want to talk to. And I know this sounds very specific, but you can kind of use these practices across the board. Anytime you're in public and you're staying at one location, whether it's a bookstore, a coffee shop, a library, doesn't matter, sit at the tables where you have a chance to interact with other people. The more you isolate yourself, the less you're going to be able to have those social interactions. So let's say you're at one of those tables and you see someone that you maybe want to talk to. You're probably asking, what am I supposed to say to them? How do I start a conversation? And the simple answer is to do that, you need to pay attention. You need to notice something that you can comment on or talk about. And honestly, this is way easier than you think. For example, what kind of stickers do they have on their laptop? Do they have one that relates to a hobby of yours? Comment on it. Did you overhear a conversation they had on the phone about an event that you're also going to? Comment on it. Does their drink look interesting? Ask them what they're drinking. Are they wearing a cool shirt or a hat for one of your favorite sports teams? Mention it. See, being aware of other people is the first way to start a conversation. You need something to bring up, to spark interest, and to get the ice broken. And if you pay attention, not in a weird way, but in a way with some subtle interest, you'll have opportunities. For example, let's say you hear the person at your coffee shop table next to you talking on the phone about a local restaurant or bar. When they hang up, just say, "Hey, sorry to interrupt you, but I heard you say something about whatever the bar is. Is that a good place to go out? I've heard about it, but I'm new here and I honestly don't really know what to do for fun." Think about if someone said that to you. Most of the time, as long as they're not just a super weird person, that's not going to come across as weird. And you aren't really infringing on anything because they're the ones having a loud conversation at a shared table in public. So, going to places like coffee shops and sitting around other people is the first step. The second step is finding something that interests you about them. The third step is starting a conversation. Now the door is open and you may become friends. But Solace, what if I don't see anything to comment about? Well, to be honest, for strictly platonic friendships, I kind of see this as a requirement. Nobody's going to want to be friends with you unless you can connect about something, so unless you see something that you can connect on, it's probably not worth exploring a conversation. If the person sitting next to you is wearing all black with no logos, using a plain laptop, typing on an Excel sheet, and drinking water with headphones on, yeah, the chances are that you're not going to have anything to connect about anyways, which means the friendship won't evolve. So look for that person that does have something that interests you and be genuine about it, and the spark will be more likely to appear. Forcing a conversation just because there's another human next to you isn't really worth it in my opinion, unless you see a way to take the conversation in a specific direction. And for me, the way to do that, again, is by looking at what they're doing, what they're wearing, what they're talking about, and then striking up a conversation. It takes playing the game to meet new people, and you aren't going to become friends with the first person you talk to. So the more you do it, the better your odds, which means it's okay to not talk to someone if you don't see something interesting. Again, if you force it, it's kind of weird. You need to genuinely express an interest in something that this person is doing or talking about. And this is just one example. People at a shared table in a coffee shop, but there are plenty of other ways to meet people. That one's just my favorite. If you live in a city, you need to go to a common gathering spot, a place where people flock to for a specific activity or regular occurrence. People at kava bars are extremely friendly, and they actually seem like some of the most social people I've ever met. I don't drink kava, and honestly I don't really know what it is, but if you do, maybe give that a try. Go to a farmer's market on weekends and walk around. They're super easy to go to by yourself, and nobody's going to think that you're weird if you're walking around solo at a farmer's market. When you're there, do the same thing. Pay attention, ask questions, and strike up conversations. Talk to the guy at the plant shop booth and ask him where he gets his plants from. Tell him about the houseplants that you have and ask him for his advice on how to keep them alive. Maybe that conversation evolves and you guys can connect and exchange contact information, and who knows where it goes from there. Talk to the girl at the vintage clothing spot and ask her how she picks out such interesting outfits. Talk about how you always have been interested in vintage clothing, but you never really know how to style your outfits. Maybe connect with her and talk about how she should take you to one of her favorite places. Again, gender, interest, hobbies, location aside, this is easily possible to do. There are 1,000 ways to take it, you just have to pay attention. And if those things don't interest you, you're going to need to pick up a hobby. The more things that you're interested in, the more things that you're going to be able to talk to people about. If you like board games, go to a local board game store and start talking to the guy working there, asking if there's any local meetups to play board games with people. If you like running, search on Instagram for a local run club and message them about joining. If you like rock climbing or bouldering, see where the nearest climbing gym is and go exercise there regularly and meet people. In fact, the climbing gym is actually one of my favorite places to meet people because I swear climbers are the friendliest and most welcoming people out there. I actually really recommend that one if you have a gym around you. And you don't even need to be athletic. It's a great experience, you get in good shape, and you grow pretty quickly with the hobby. Anyways, point is, there are tons of places where you can meet new people, but you're going to have to go to them in order to make new friends. Once you're there, pay attention. Don't sit around being in your head the whole time, don't put on headphones and listen to music, and don't check your phone every 5 seconds to ease the discomfort of being in public. There is 100% going to be discomfort, especially if you're new to this. but you gotta embrace it or you'll never get over it and you'll never make new friends. But I will say, there's more to it than just being in public. Making friends takes consistency. It's rare to make friends with someone after one interaction, so you want to find a way to continuously hang out with them or run into them again in public. If you meet them in a coffee shop and connect with them with your initial conversation, get their phone number or Instagram. Shoot them a text or DM next time you're planning on going there and invite them to join you. If you meet them at the rock climbing gym, do the same. If you meet them at a farmer's market or a monthly event of some kind, ask them if they're going to the next one and see if they want to join you. You need to get uncomfortable, take the risk, and be the one to ask, or nothing will happen. They probably also feel nervous asking you to do stuff as well, so one of you has to take the chance or you guys will never talk again. And what's the worst that'll happen? They say no? They think you're weird? Well, guess what? Who cares? There's some random person that if they think you're weird, you're probably going to never see again anyways. So again, go out in public, show up regularly, see the same faces, talk to them, and invite them back out if the conversation goes well and you feel like you hit it off. If there's not a spark, don't force it, but the more you interact, the more the chances of that spark happening. And that's just one way to meet people. If you don't feel like going out, do what Doug did and reach out to someone you find online. Again, who cares if they think you're weird? You don't even know them. Join clubs, groups, organizations, etc. But no matter what, the best way to meet people is to be out in public and around people. There's really no way around it. Now, this discussion has been about meeting people in real life, but it's also nice to make new online friends too. Think about those Xbox Live days, playing with random people on the internet and queuing up in games. That was fun. But I also think that's gotten a little more difficult as well, so I'd love to dive into that in another video if that's something you want to hear about. Let me know in the comments if you'd like to. Also, if you have any other tips for meeting people in real life, let's talk about those in the comments as well. I'd love to see what you think. If you enjoyed this, feel free to buy me a coffee with the website in the description, and we will talk again soon.